We are happy to announce that this episode of the SWW show is partially brought to you by Humble Bundle. Well, not really. We are part of the Humble Bundle referral program, and we just wanted to say that if you like really cheap games and maybe helping charity pending the Humble thing going on, all you have to do is go to humblebundle.com/partner equals SWW. That's right, humblebundle.com/partner equals SWW. And you just do your normal stuff, and it just kind of helps us get a couple bucks here and there. Maybe it helps AJ get his lights. Maybe it's Mike camera. Maybe we actually pay Corey for helping us out. But again, if you're going to go buy games anyway, it might be worth checking out. Hello everyone, and welcome back to these interview episodes of the SWW show. I'm Mike, and today with me a special guest from, can't be that far, I think we're in the same time zone. To get us started, do you mind introducing yourself and the game we are here to talk about?
Yeah, my name is Patrick Dunn. I have a game studio called Package Games Studio. My game that I'm currently working on is called Midnight Zone. Midnight Zone is I classify it as a hyper-casual platformer. You could also call it probably an arcade platformer. It's about a fish that's in the Midnight Zone. The Midnight Zone is a depth of the ocean that's very dark, and the premise of the game is to not get crushed by the top of the screen by falling through holes in the platforms.
So there's many ways to go that one, obviously. So I want to start with I think I kind of tell you this too. So I'm kind of curious kind of your background on this one. Is this like your first kind of professional Steam game thing? So obviously, as we talked about before, I think you said you're a one-man team kind of working on this?
Yes, sir. So I have worked on quite a few other prototypes. This is my first Steam release. I have released a game previously for Android on the Google Play Store. I actually ended up taking it down, though, just because there were a lot of issues with device compatibility. So building for mobile is not exactly the easiest thing in my experience.
That's accurate as can be. Mobile is very cheap to build for, in theory, and it's very cheap to get something compiled. Let me phrase the statement. It's very cheap, and to get it on a storefront. Getting it to work on mobile, I am convinced is 10 times harder than getting it to work on PC correctly.
Yeah, definitely.
No, that's very interesting. And so it's your first Steam game. Since you obviously started going through the process, I'm kind of curious because I think last week we had a similar discussion. Was the Steam store 10,000 times harder to set up than you thought it was going to be also? Because every developer I've ever talked to, they're like, I budgeted a day or two to set up my Steam page. It took me like 3 weeks.
It didn't take me 3 weeks, but I definitely had to reach out to. I'm part of several different game dev discords, and I had to reach out to people and try to get it figured out because the back end just is complicated. And I set up a play test for my game, so anybody can go on my Steam page right now and request a play test. And learning all of that was definitely a learning curve. The documentation's pretty heavy for Steam, and there's not a whole lot of videos. I mean, there are videos out there, but I just feel like there's certain things that aren't explained very well on the internet about how to set things up with Steam. So it can be daunting.
That's a good way of putting it. But let's kind of jump back. Obviously, as you said, we're talking about Midnight Zone. So I want to kind of talk to you. So you kind of explained it, but I kind of want to jump back a little more. So as you said, even your Steam page has kind of been like the pitch on us is like calling it this like hyper casual, or as you use the term now, arcadey platformer. I'm kind of curious to you, what does that mean to you? Because if someone said like an intense platformer, like I think I have a better image of that one in my head, right? Because it was like there was like Celeste a couple years ago, and those games that I would consider like those like more very kind of hardcore, like you have a frame to get this right platformer. So what do you mean by when you say hyper casual?
I think it's something that, anybody can pick up and play and figure out easily, like there's not a whole lot of bells and whistles to it. It's kind of just I don't want to call it bare bones because there is some meta to it, but it's something that if you were to go to say an arcade and play an arcade game, like most of those games you can just walk up and kind of figure out how to play it just based upon playing it. So I think that's more so what I mean by a hyper casual, something that you can. Initially, the idea of my game came from I play a lot of online games where you end up sitting in lobbies for like 3 to 5 minutes just doing nothing, kind of just waiting for a match to start. So I wanted something to play on the side and be able to have like a windowed game, and that's kind of how my game was born. I was sitting there waiting for a match, and I was like, you know what? I want a game that I can play while I'm waiting for this match. So initially, the game itself was born from a game called Fall Down, which I used to play in high school on my TI-84 calculator, and it's basically just a ball falling through platforms, and that's where I started with the game, and then it evolved into being underwater themed.
So I'm kind of curious. As you just said, it started as a kind of a need that you solved, like actually a personal want almost, right? Of like, oh, I want someone playing lobbies. Did the game ever so you said that was like you kind of messed with that way. Did the game ever shift the moment you decided to make it a commercial product, or is it kind of like, well, I want this to be a thing, and you just had to add little bells and whistles on top of what you wanted to make, kind of to make it into more of a commercial thing versus kind of a you play with on the side thing?
Yeah, I mean, obviously with any commercial item, you want it to be alluring, you want it to have some kind of substance to it, because nobody necessarily wants to look at just a ball falling through platforms. So you got to add some fun to it. But as I've been growing with this, I think another big piece for myself at least is just the coding aspect. I feel like I've been growing a lot with programming, and I've taken a lot of GameDev.tv's courses, and I feel like for a while it just wasn't I wasn't really picking up on any of that stuff, and now that I've started with kind of a smaller project, it's starting to show. It's starting to show that I've learned a lot of things about programming and how to piece things together. And I'm still making mistakes, obviously, but it's been a great journey, and I'm really excited for what I have and to share it with the world. I'm really hoping to eventually have this made into an arcade game, like a stand-up arcade game where you can go, to like a pizza place, or I hear they have arcades in airports now. So, something like that would be really cool to me, to have my own game as a stand-up arcade.
That would be literally probably the weirdest thing to physically see. You'd be like walking like down the airport and just being like, is that my? Especially you didn't know it was there.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
But that's very funny actually. So obviously, so that's kind of cool. I'm kind of curious. So the other thing that was a big point on like your Steam page and stuff was you're talking about the soundtrack. I was kind of curious if you could dig into that soundtrack some more, kind of like where your inspiration for it is, and kind of like how that all came together.
So the soundtrack, actually, my best friend Andy DeGangi created all the songs on his Apple iPad with a program, and they're not really necessarily specific to the game, but uh, I think the reason it fits so well in the game is because the game has like a almost like a slow mo effect, and the way I programmed it, it reduces the pitch of the music when you activate that slow mo effect, and because the music's kind of high energy, intense at times, it really adds to the effect, and I feel like the soundtrack is just I don't think there was any intention behind him making that music other than it going in a game or going to like some skateboarding videos or whatever. But Andy's definitely a mastermind when it comes to making music that can go in games. So I really appreciate that he donated that music to me and for me to put in my game.
It always is true though. It's donation until the game pops up. Then it's less of a donation. But yeah, that sounds great. So as we said, then the game is, I would argue, it seems like mechanically, I don't want to say simple, but like it's relatively basic controls, and it's kind of balancing your understanding of them and kind of as you're going through it. What is there any other thing to you kind of where, like, when you explained to the game to other people that we think you didn't get across kind of like, besides obviously you said it's a platformer, kind of like what to you is that like selling or grand pitch that you feel like we've missed?
I mean, I think the biggest selling point that I originally stand by is that it's a fun game that you can pass the time with. When you're waiting for something or you're doing something else, it's something that you can just throw on in the background and come back to play. And then I'm trying to also make it so that it's competitive. And I think that's another really big selling point. I plan on putting in Steam leaderboards so that when your friends play, you can see their high scores and try to beat their high scores. So I would say that's probably the biggest, and that's kind of also where the whole idea for the arcade thing comes from. Is I myself love going to arcades, and I spent a good chunk of time playing Centipede. That was one of my favorite arcade games, and I feel like my game isn't Centipede, but it's a game that somebody would want to play and try to beat their high score and try to beat other people's high scores. That's the fun of it.
That really does seem that is like the long term appeal of a lot of these, which is funny because like obviously said this game started as an initial pitch of like, oh, it's the not a ton to it because it's while we're on a loading screen, and then high scores become that fun combo. Have you been influenced at all? Kind of like obviously speedrunning's always a big thing, or like I think it's Neon White. It's the game just came out where that was like its whole pitch is how fast you can do it. Is there anything like that when you're picturing levels like this that like really like that like you picture this game, or is it more that kind of general like still keep it casual with like high scores and like friends kind of going for it versus like making that like a giant pitch of the game?
I think there's always potential for any game to evolve into something else. Much like my game, I think my game kind of started out a little bit different than what it is. It still has its core values, but yeah, I think that I'm going for more of an endurance thing. I'm going for more of like a long-term endurance gameplay than having levels per se. Essentially, you're up against an AI because it's just randomly spawning platforms, and then through those platforms you have different enemies that you can get stuck on, and that's kind of what kills you. But then you also have power ups to counteract the platforms that spawn. So it's more of like an endurance arcade feel than something like, say, Will You Snail, where it's you have levels and you have to get through the levels. I would rather, for me at least, I would rather have something where I can sit down for maybe 15 minutes and try to beat my high score than have to play through a story driven. Not that there's anything wrong with story-driven games like that, but yeah, that's more so what I'm going for is the arcade feel.
No, that makes a lot of sense. So as you said, kind of one of the things coming up, as you said, kind of is the game's coming out at some point tail end of this month or the summer, and you said leaderboards. That sounds like one of your first things on your docket. Is there anything else kind of people can expect or should expect kind of from you in the future or the game, or is it more wait and see kind of how the game does?
I think once I have so the game releases August 1st. That's my planned release date. Um, I still have some other things kind of uh, on the back burner in terms of ideas for the game. I would like maybe I've been talking with some of the playtesters, and one of them was talking about multiplayer, and uh, the game seems like it couldn't have multiplayer, but at the same time, we were talking about almost kind of something like a Tetris attack, if that makes any sense, where you would have like separate play screens, and you could collect power ups on your side, and it would affect the person on the other side in terms of the difficulty that they're facing on their side. So I mean, there's always potential that it could turn into like a multiplayer game. It really could go anywhere. I think right now I'm just trying to stay focused on the tasks that I have, in terms of getting the Steam leaderboards working, getting achievements working, adding, visuals. There's still a couple other functionality pieces that I need to get working as well, that are smaller, but I know that they're going to take some time. So, it's definitely not a finished product as of yet. And I think the other piece of it that I'd really like to get, that I think I'm close to but just haven't quite figured out, is how to intuitively teach people how to play the game without giving them an instruction screen or giving them like too much information, where it's something where they can just jump in and be like, oh yeah, if I collect this power up, then the platforms go at half speed, or if I collect this power up, then the screen lights up and now I can see the platforms, or whatever it is. Being able to do that and not have people be confused as to like why did it do this thing, because that's the biggest thing, is like games nowadays like have their tutorial section where it's like you play the tutorial for 20 minutes and now you know how to play the game, and that's not always fun to people. Some people just want to jump in a game and be able to play it without having to learn the bells and whistles to it. They just want to play the game.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. So I want to say again, thank you for taking time out of your day to talk to us today about Midnight Zone. If people were curious, I know we should be sending them to the Steam page, which is Midnight Zone. Is there any other spot we should be sending them to go learn more about the game?
I have a website that's packagegamesstudio.com. There's not a whole lot of information on there other than the Steam page wishlist button. So those are the two places to go to find out more about my game.
And as I like to explain to everyone as we close this, remember to wishlist every indie game. It is the best metric. It is the best everything from the Steam algorithm that will give people a leg up. But again, Patrick, thank you again, and enjoy the rest of your afternoon.
Thanks. You do the same.
The SWW Show and all of its affiliate podcasts are podcast by me, Mike Maroney, and AJ Losi, sometimes by contributors, including Corey King. You can follow the SWW Show on social media at the SWW Show, or sooner or later you go to patreon.com/SWW to help us out. Thank you, and we hope you enjoy the rest of your day.